vibrant ecosystem. So thank you, Kathy, for being here.
You're welcome. Absolutely. Glad to be here.
I also want to note that the delicious food that we have tonight is from Que Gusto, which is one of the companies that works out of Kitchen 66, which is one of our beloved programs as well. So I hope you enjoy that. Cool. So we'll get started.
Okay.
So Kathy, why has the City of Tulsa's new administration decided that it's important to support entrepreneurship?
Well, what we know is that 2/3 of the new jobs that are created in this economy will be created by companies that have 5 or fewer people. And if you take that and you say that 1/3 of those companies added 1 employee this year, if we could create an economy where 1/3 of those companies could add 1 employee, it would completely transform the economics of this community. And Mayor Bynum believes in not operating by hunch, but operating by data. And so our Office of Performance Management and the City Council and the Mayor have put together a set of criteria that we think are important for our city. And 2 of those that we work on in the Mayor's Office of Economic Development are increasing the population in the City of Tulsa and increasing the per capita income. And the way to do both of those are to make this city a better place, an easier place, a friendlier place, a more supportive place for entrepreneurs and small business. And I'm going to tell you, we have a ways to go. Any of you who have been to a park recently and taken a class or enrolled, you may know that it's a little bit difficult sometimes to pay. It used to be 5 years ago even you had to pay in cash. If you can imagine that. When I was first mayor, I walked into the vault area and saw cash lying all over these desks, and I was like, wow, it's a treasure trove for the city budget. Where did this come from? And they said city parks all across the city, people would pay in cash. Now, if you can imagine that's probably not the best accounting practice, but also not the best to really support citizens engaging or supporting or using our city facilities. So in the spring, we will have something that I think will be great for both small businesses, entrepreneurs, and citizens generally. Our accounting system, finance system will be completely transformed. The amount of transparency that we will have so you can see where every dollar that you are sending your city officials to run the government goes will be online. We're also going to put online our permitting and development services. So today, have any of you ever built or rebuilt or remodeled a facility in Tulsa? Okay, it's tough, right? A little tough? Yeah. So we operate at City Hall, and we operate at 23rd and Jackson, and we operate at the water plant, lots of places. And if you build, you bring us a set of plans, and often those plans are usually literally paper plans on a shelf, and they can't necessarily be used at the same time by all the different departments that need to respond to you, so you can get speed to market and get your business going. In the spring of this year, that will all change. People will still have the option to use paper, but we will be finally an online community where you'll be able to look online at the status of your permit anytime. You'll be able to know who's handling it and where they are in the process and where you are in the process to get ready to go to market. This will be a transformational change in the way small businesses can do business with the city, because if you're a big business and you've got a big development staff and a real estate staff, you kind of know how to get through the system. But if it's your first and your only time as a small business to develop, by the time you get through the process, you may be ready to be done with the process, literally. And we know that for our community to thrive, it needs to not be we certainly want to be supportive of our big businesses and our large employers, but we know that the future is really where small business and entrepreneurs and how we help them do business with the city in a more cost-effective way for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is you guys are really focused on being data-driven and wanting to increase transparency and really focusing on process improvement.
Absolutely.
That's great. Cool. So in the same vein, what are the benefits of the City of Tulsa championing local businesses?
Well, again, I think it's all about the economy and jobs. I mean, a little bit of background for those of you who don't know how the City of Tulsa is financed or run, because it's unique in the United States. Cities in Oklahoma are the only cities in the nation whose operating budget, and that means hiring police officers and firefighters and paying our public works department and making sure your toilet flushes, every salary, every operating department is financed solely by sales tax. And so we have every incentive, we should have every incentive, to make sure anything that is retail gets to market and is as successful as possible, because the county's operating budget is property tax, very stable source of revenue. Sales tax, retail, as you all know, any of you who are in retail, not a very stable source of revenue. And so it's important for us for that kind of selfish reason, that we want to make sure your government has enough funds to run, and that's all about sales tax. But we also want to make sure that we've got a thriving economy, that we can attract and retain talent, that we've got a great quality of life that small business and entrepreneurs bring. So it is really one of the highest priorities, because we know we achieve the goals of increasing our population and increasing per capita income if we can increase our ability to help support. We don't create jobs in government. I mean, we do create a few. We have employees at city government. We don't create jobs in the private sector, but we can make it easier or harder for you to do business in the city of Tulsa. And our goal is to make it as easy as possible. And one of the things that we have done, and we're starting an education series monthly about different areas of the city that you may interact. We did one on a program that's maybe not that exciting to some of you, but I see that some of you are actually here for this program. It's called a Brownfields program. It's a no-interest loan program to deal with environmental issues if you're buying a piece of property that has an environmental issue. We have about $500,000 in that fund right now. It's a revolving loan program that we want to help people rehab existing properties. So we're going to start things like that to help you understand how to do better, do business with the city of Tulsa and get feedback. We have online, if you haven't enrolled in it, I hope that you will. It's called Feedback Tulsa. It's a new tool that we have put online, and when there's a subject that there seems to be a lot of interest in the community, Feedback Tulsa is your online ability to tell us what you think, and it's an open forum. You can do it anonymously or not, but it allows us to get immediate feedback from citizens on topics that are important. We did it on a very emotional topic. It is an emotional topic in the last year, and that's downtown parking. It's a pretty emotional topic. We got a lot of great feedback. The pedestrian bridge that we recently did the competition on was on Feedback Tulsa.
Wonderful. So you mentioned talent retention. What can the city of Tulsa do to attract entrepreneurs, and likewise, what can we do to keep them from leaving?
It's a great question. I think, again, we want your feedback. We want to be known as the city where entrepreneurs have the support that they need in the environment to do business. That doesn't just mean the city of Tulsa, but we have that philosophy with the many entities that we fund. So you may know that the city government has trust authorities. Some of you may have worked with the Tulsa Development Authority or the Tulsa Industrial Authority or the Tulsa Economic Development Corporation, the Tulsa Chamber of Commerce. Those are all entities that the city of Tulsa funds, either in whole or in part. And the mayor has actually a meeting with the chairs of all of those authorities in June, and one of his messages is to grow Tulsa, we need to grow the entrepreneurial and the business community. So to the extent you have resources or you have opportunities, we want to see those put forward to help small business. I think the bike share program that the city of Tulsa is supporting is a way to attract and retain talent. The fact that we have recently forward funded the vision program that you all put into place last year, so that we will have bus rapid transit in this community in 2019. Well, the closest community to us that will have a similar transit system is San Antonio. Wow. And I believe it's going to completely change between the bike share and BRT. It's going to completely change our ability to be mobile in this community. Something I think that's been a dream for many of us for decades, and we didn't think we would get there. But thanks to really the courage of Mayor Bynum in being aggressive in advance funding that, putting it at the very top of the list, you'll see that in less than 2 years. And I think that is going to attract and retain. I mean, you like being without a car occasionally?
Yeah, I feel like people in Tulsa are like always tired of driving because it's what we do every day, and those of us who can't drive are really limited because of that. So
we're also this summer starting a very aggressive internship program in the city of Tulsa as kind of a civic fellows program to bring in college students and young people to help us solve problems and look at things in a very different way. Now, I will say that I'm a senior citizen on the mayor's team. Everyone else is 2 decades younger than me, so you don't need to figure out my age, but I can just tell you that.
But she's still the coolest.
I'm still energetic. But it's a great, diverse team, and we want to bring in more of that so that we hear from people that are getting ready to be entrepreneurs, start small businesses, get into the workforce. How can the city support keeping you here, you helping us recruit more people here? How can we do that? We only know if we're just staying inside the walls of City Hall and trying to invent it ourselves, it's not going to happen. We need input from others. And so I think we'll have 8 interns this summer in our Civic Fellows program at City Hall.
Awesome. So every year, as you know, the Lobeck Taylor Family Foundation publishes a State of Entrepreneurship report. And I'm just really curious, how many of you in here have looked at the report? Or wow! Yay! Okay, that's awesome. So each year we write it. It's actually in its 4th year of publication. We hear the same thing, that entrepreneurs in Tulsa have a really hard time finding startup capital, and they really often have to secure that outside of Oklahoma. So I'm wondering what the city of Tulsa has planned for helping entrepreneurs secure startup capital.
It's a great question. Tulsa Economic Development Corporation, which, as I said, is one of the partnerships. It's a board appointed by the mayor that helps small business. That's one of the things we always support in the city of Tulsa budget, but they're actually applying for a fairly substantial grant that would allow us to set up, and they would run a larger loan fund than they currently have in the city of Tulsa. We think that's important. There has been a movement in the city of Tulsa over the last decade to have what's called a closing fund. Those closing funds are usually thought of to be for major business expansions or attractions. Our viewpoint is that that's one way to use a closing fund, but the fact is, if we know that this gap exists in financing for small businesses, and we know that's the future of our economy, a local incentive fund that supports small business needs to be a part of that discussion. So that dialogue will begin this summer, and we'll be looking at how that's financed publicly or privately, but I can tell you that our voice at the table will be, how can we help use that to support expansion of small businesses and entrepreneurs.
Great. So how can the broader Tulsa community, thinking about everyone in this room, support entrepreneurship?
Well, I think raising your hand and your voice and saying what your needs are and how you see that, how you see the city of Tulsa can help support that. I also think that there are over 500 positions on boards, commissions, and trust authorities in the city of Tulsa. And the mayor is very focused on making sure that there is a broad, diverse voice on each of those boards and trust authorities. And you may think some of them don't impact you, but I can tell you the Tulsa Municipal Utilities Authority, boring as that may sound, because they get your water to you and they make sure your toilet flushes appropriately, all of which I think is important. And they also set your rates, right, for utilities. And so your input on that board, whether you attend the meeting or you apply to be appointed to that. The Mayor's Commission on the Status of Women, who looks at issues of disparity and how the city and other entities can help support not just women businesses, but other issues. So what I would encourage you to really get involved. I would even encourage you to run for office now, and I can say that having been on the winning and the losing side, and I'm still going to tell you that you should run for office. But I would really encourage you to get involved in city government. It's the one thing that really impacts every business, every entrepreneur, every individual, every single day. The streets you ride on, whether or not you have bike racks, right? What kind of parking that you have, whether the zoo is appropriately funded, whether you've got transit, the BOK Center, the Performing Arts Center, all of that is managed by your city government. And so the stronger your voice is at that table, you're going to shape the future of the city. And I know often, many of you may be at a stage of life where you're starting a business and you've got kids and a lot of other obligations, and you think, I just don't have time for this. I would say to you, you don't have time not to have time for it, because it is the future for you and your kids and your business.
So you're suggesting that people really gravitate towards what they most feel called to?
And raise the voice of entrepreneurs and small business. There's nothing that I have mentioned that does not impact a business of some kind or an entrepreneur. I mean, the Performing Arts Center, has a policy that was adopted about a decade ago that made sure that we had diversity in programming, both in terms of types of programming from a cultural standpoint, but also in terms of making sure that there were breaks for smaller theater companies that couldn't afford the cost of being at the Performing Arts Center, but because we wanted to really see, and that was because someone raised their hand and their voice and said, we need to see this in our community. So I encourage your voice at the table.
Wonderful. Thank you. So we crowdsourced some questions from Facebook, and I'm going to go through a few of them. Stephen says, Amazon is disrupting retail in a transformative and potentially dangerous way. With 63% of American households using Amazon Prime service, I did not check that fact, so I'm not sure if that's true or not, but that's what Stephen says.
Might be higher.
Yeah. This disruption will continue, and Americans seem to have no issue with this. What are we going to do with all of the empty retail and commercial real estate locations we'll have in the next decade, and what steps will Tulsa take to mitigate this disruption?
So the good news about that is that with Amazon Locker, we're actually getting sales tax from that now in the city of Tulsa, and we really love that. The bad news is now across the country, we are seeing that the mega malls are really a dinosaur. They're a thing of the past. We've been lucky in Tulsa to already transform a couple of those. The former, it was either a Home Depot or some type, Builder Square, we were able to turn into a home for American Airlines Wheel and Brake Center. Employs about 500 people. So we were able to transform that big box into something that supported American Airlines. 21st and Sheridan, don't remember what was there, but it was a big box retail. It's now a Verizon call center. With 3 city councilors and 2 of our planning staff, we took a tour of all the aging retail centers in Tulsa 2 weeks ago. And we have begun to contact developers that are now specializing in transforming those. We've seen them transformed into schoolhouses. We've seen them transform into senior living centers. And what we're really seeing is that those become, instead of walled off from a neighborhood, they turn around and become part of a neighborhood as we have closer communities. And so for example, from a public incentive standpoint, I had someone come to us recently asking for public incentives to rehab one of those malls. And we said our policy is if you want to turn it around and you want to make it, because this particular one actually bordered a park and a school. We said if you want to turn it around and make it outdoor dining and something that really brings that neighborhood in, that we know enriches the park so that you're at the park where there's actually a volleyball court. It's not at 71st and Riverside. It's another volleyball court, if anybody knows where it is. And there was a baseball diamond, but what that park saw were trash cans of this big retail center. And we said, our public policy is, if you want our public dollars, then you help us not only rehab the center, but make sure that you connect with the neighborhood. And that's really the future of what we're seeing around the country with these large malls. They're becoming either entertainment venues, housing, but they're really instead of turning their backs to the neighborhood, they're turning themselves into an amenity for the neighborhoods. And that's what we'll be doing. I'll be going to an event called ICSC, International Council of Shopping Centers, in the end of May, and we have specific appointments to meet with people to talk about how we can transform aging retail centers. So it's a great, very pertinent question cities all around the country are dealing with.
Okay. So if someone has a certain vacant space in mind that they have inspiration to transform, what do they do? Who do they contact?
Well, the spaces are primarily privately owned, and so we work with the developers. When we see when we hear of a closing of a store that might be in Tulsa, we contact either the store operator or the owner and talk with them about how we can help connect them. So you can contact the Mayor's Office of Economic Development. We have a list of those spaces and who the owners are, and we can help you work with them because many of them would rather have someone in their facility than no one, and we can incentivize them to do what we think is the right thing for the neighborhood.
Great. So Jay has another question. He said, how do we capitalize on the cybersecurity talent tied to Tulsa to create a bustling new sector?
That is a great question, and I am confident there's an answer in this room. We have talked a lot with TU about how, because we're seeing these students that are being trained, leaving for Washington, D.C., and so it is a sector, the IT. We know that cybersecurity, whether you're a nonprofit, a small business, that is an issue that is becoming more and more at the forefront of any business that is opening. And so I don't have an answer to that question, I will tell you, but I can tell you it's something that we give a lot of discussion to, and we need to increase the density of that type of business in Tulsa. You probably know there's going to be a company that's going to be a school that's going to be coming in doing coding support that'll provide kind of additional supports to businesses that are starting in that area. So I think we have a lot of great talent, and we need to do a better job than we have of keeping them here in that area, because it's such a burgeoning area, and it's not an area we have been successful in. So I'd certainly look for help and support in that. But it is a conversation we've had at the University of Tulsa as recently as last month.
Okay. Does anyone in the room have anything
any solutions? Any businesses that we can,
has the city considered special programs just as an example, targeting, incentivizing the incubating of security?
No, it's a great question, and it's interesting because the incentives that we have on the books right now are really focused on large industrial projects, right there for water and sewer and land. They aren't our current incentives, I think, are pretty antiquated. They aren't looking at today's economy, both at the state level, the quality jobs, which is a kind of a world-renowned national incentive, but you have to be in certain industrial NAICS codes, and you have to have a payroll of $2.5 million. So that's not going to work for much. So I think it's a great, and we've recently done an inventory of city facilities. The city owns a lot of real estate, and I was talking to someone earlier that there are buildings that we are underutilizing that as 36 degrees north and the Forge run out of space, that we at very little cost could transform into. It's not something that we would do a good job of running, by the way. That's why we don't run the Gilchrist Museum anymore. So I used to lose sleep at night that we didn't have the collection insured. But it would be a facility that we could provide to someone we could put a request out for proposals. So I think it's a great idea, and we have a couple of buildings that we're looking at for that.
Thank you.
Did you have it?
Yeah, I don't have answers. I have ideas.
Oh, good. Ideas are great.
Cybersecurity from the Summer Fire Talks.
Oh, right.
So, I would say the word salad that I would give you is the TU tends to be like a cybersecurity treadmill off of the NSA.
Uh-huh.
So, but at the same time, if I knew a cybersecurity student, I wouldn't want to tell them not to go work on the hardest cybersecurity problems in the world right now.
Right.
What I'd really love to do is be able to boomerang them back to Tulsa whenever they get all of that awesome training. And get
It's a
them
great.
back here, in a way. And then that's probably the number one thing.
It's a great idea.
TU. There's also, I know, a sort of secondary cybersecurity community and ecosystem, both at the university and outside of it. So there was a B-Sides conference here in Oklahoma that had 350 attendees. That's a cybersecurity conference that was in closing Liverpool. But I mean, that stuff is kind of around, and I think it's just connecting a lot
It's connecting the dots. It sounds like we need to have a brainstorming session to figure out how to do that. Yeah, but I love the boomerang idea. You know, we've done that. We've done that not specifically focused on that, but we've done that with going out to communities where we know we've sent a lot of kids to, and worked on boomeranging them back, letting them know what, because some of them haven't been in Tulsa in a decade, and this community's changed substantially. So that's a great idea to focus on that.
And I want to mention that Kathy's really good about bringing people back to Tulsa. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kathy,
Well, if you offer a college student a free meal,
yeah,
you know, you can meet them. I was teaching at the Kennedy School of Government, and I just put a post on this was 6 years ago, put a post on my Facebook page. Hey, if anybody has a college student here, anywhere in the Boston area, I'm going to host them for dinner at the Harvard Faculty Club. 100 people showed up from Tulsa, and many of them are back in Tulsa now.
One of them was my sister.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So I know that you have a couple of questions to ask the audience. I thought that I would open up for you.
I do. I mean, I really would like to know how you interact with the city, or if you do, how you think. I like the idea of the incubator facility. How could the city be more supportive of you? What would make you want to call your friend in Austin or in Los Angeles and say, you know what, this is the place to be to do business. This city has a very welcoming environment. And it's something that would be within the city's. Yes.
So I don't know how likely this would be, but some sort of housing aimed at like entrepreneurial event angle. Me and my co-founder live together, and we do a thing where we're homestagers, and we move literally every 2 months. We do that for cheap rent, and that's just so we can pay the bills, keep the lights on, and fund the business.
So tell me what size space you think that would be.
A closet would be fine.
Yeah,
Right?
closet. I have a closet.
We live wherever, so
Yeah.
pretty much if we have to move, like there's been a time where we had to move in like 6 hours because they screwed up the move out day, and it was like, oh, gotta do it, keep the business alive.
Yeah.
So something like that for us. I don't know how many people. I think that'd be more younger.
Right.
We don't have kids and stuff, but
Well, it's again, and I want you to know we're working on these issues, but we're a long way from there. We've defined the problem, and I think you've said it. What we see, whether it is, I mean, we know right now mobility is an issue because we don't have a great transit system, so people want to be near where they're working or where they can bike or walk. And I mean, we are right now downtown kind of pricing people out of the market. Mm-hmm. We've got, and there was a study done by the state that was released last fall on not just on attainable housing, but on also safety and security of some of the housing that we have. And we have a long ways to go in that area. We've recently received a grant to hire someone to help us redo or actually invent, because we have almost no housing policies in the city. We have a few in our new zoning code that make it easier to do smaller houses or more dense housing, but that's kind of it. And we are way behind in that area, and we know we've got to catch up fast, or people like you are not going to be able to stay in the city. So I'd be very interested at some point in getting more specifics on, and I know I saw Daniel Regan in here somewhere, and I know he raised this issue at TIPROS the other evening. more specifics about kind of what we've looked at some developers and other communities who have done very small housing, and on the ends they have like community rooms that people go to. Nothing like that exists really in Tulsa today. So it would be interesting in more input on exactly what you would find attractive. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, sorry. So I know you mentioned that the majority of people are hired kind of in the 1 to 5 range for small businesses, and I know there's incentives out there for groups that are hiring like 20 people in the next 2 years with a minimum wage of $55,000 a year,
right.
Which as a startup or an early business is a really hard milestone to achieve. So I was wondering if the city was considering anything for that smaller 1 to 5 range, maybe a smaller upfront, kind of salary cap that they might be trying to help incentivize hiring new people, because you get to that point where you want to expand, you can only afford 2 or 3 people, but maybe not at $55K, and
right.
If there's any sort of, even if it's just taxes or whatever, if you have any sort of incentive plans thought out for that.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's one of the things that one of the civic fellows that's going to be with us this summer is going to look at what other communities are doing to support entrepreneurs. The program you're talking about, I think, is the Small Quality Jobs Act,
mm-hmm. Yep.
state-funded program. It's a great program if you have that many employees and that kind of salary. Average per capita income in Tulsa right now is $32,128, and so we like to incentivize, an average wage over that. That's kind of the economist theory.
Right.
But as you look at how do you grow entrepreneurs and small businesses, we need to look at policy changes and how we use our public dollars, because really they are being used now, and certainly helping develop the economy, but they are being used in a way that supports large industrial development, and those kinds of policies, they need to change. It's not, frankly, it's not that there aren't public dollars. It is really the policies around them. So if anyone is exposed to any other communities, we're looking obviously for advice from the Kauffman Foundation, which is the kind of the premier entrepreneurial support foundation in the nation. Obviously our entrepreneurial report has some advice in it. But to the extent you do business in other communities and you see something that supports an entrepreneur, small business, we want to know about it. I mean, Portland, I think, has done an incredible job. They did it's not a crowdfunding, but it essentially allowed a tax credit for people to invest in local businesses without going through all of the Securities and Exchange Commission and Oklahoma Securities Commission work. I think it's 2. They've just finished their 2nd year. It's been incredibly successful. But some innovative ideas like that other communities have found successful, I mean, we're ready to take them on.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm Tammy Torkelson, and I with Indigo Technology, and I office here at 36 Degrees, and we also office at the floor, so we have 2.
Oh, good.
And one of the biggest challenges we face is we're a software development company, and we do enterprise software.
Right.
And getting connectivity and getting exposure with some of the larger companies. So it would be great if the mayor's office had even a speed dating of small businesses.
It's a great idea.
So that you could have some CEOs of some of the larger companies, so that service-based companies like ours can kind of say, basically do a pitch and say, here's what we do, here's the services we provide. Let's see if we can have a match.
That's a great idea. Right now, the only thing that we do is we have a small business enterprise program that helps people contract with the city, but it's being refined. Let me just say that. But we're working on making it easier. But I think that's a great idea. We've talked about doing pop-ups at City Hall of people being able to show their products, but it's not really a service business. Back when if anybody is my age, and here a couple people maybe, when the ERA funds came out, we did a speed dating thing where we had for builders and contractors, and it was really successful. So I'd never thought about it in the service industry. It's a great idea. And the nice thing about when you're the mayor and you ask CEOs to come, they actually come. So we could do that. I'll tell the mayor tonight. Yes.
I have more of a suggestion than a need, but things you want them to be engaged in the city, right? You have lots of people that live in Midtown that will never go south, and those people in the south of town that will never come to downtown.
Right.
And I feel like if there was a way that we could introduce to, hey, by the way, so here's an opportunity to hook up with a bunch of people and go explore this area, or here are some things where you want to go be able to visit. So it's like it's like what Visit Tulsa does for other people, but to do for people that are living here already.
So my colleague Devon Douglas, who's the Chief Resiliency Officer, she's not here. I hope she doesn't mind that I talk about her awesome idea that she's doing. Is going to do teams of citywide scavenger hunts to literally to get people out in different parts of the community. I mean, one of the ideas I had that I don't know how it would be accepted by the running community is that we always seem to have our runs down Brookside. And then I get, or the mayor's office gets complaints from the same people, right? Because they're always down Brookside and their streets get closed off. Why don't we have literally a kind of a distribution of these athletic events so that they start and end in different parts of the city, so we get to explore all of the beauty and the diversity of this city. So that's a great idea, and hopefully when Devon announces these scavenger hunts, you'll be at the front of the line. That was it was a chamber-run event, and I don't know. I know it still occurs in Oklahoma City. I don't know. I'll find out. I'll tell you. I know where to find you. Yes.
Hi, I'm Isaiah Person with the currently working in the Tulsa Health Department. We've actually
Yes.
a little bit of redevelopment.
Yeah.
I lived for 4 years in China, and one thing they've seen over the last couple of years are individuals and companies there are starting to increasingly invest in the U.S. and Western economies. And I feel like Tulsa really hasn't captured much of that.
I agree.
What is Tulsa doing to attract FDI and also to grow our global network and to fully utilize it? Because I feel like TU attracts a lot of international students.
Right. And ORU as well.
Yeah.
So the primary way that Tulsa does it, now the state of Oklahoma, and we work with the state of Oklahoma, they actually have offices in various countries. But the way Tulsa really does it is with the current companies that are foreign companies that have current investments, like Lufthansa Technik, who's in Hamburg. We'll go and see them and ask them to continue to introduce us to other companies in our targeted industries. We have 5 primary targeted industries: aerospace, oil and gas, manufacturing, IT, and logistics because of our location. But it's interesting. I just got back from China Monday night. And it made me think about, the EB-5 program is really how people are attracting foreign investment from places like China. So I don't know if you are familiar with the EB-5 program, and essentially if you invest $500,000 in the United States, you get X number of green cards with that. And as people are looking to move cash from unstable economies, frankly, I was talking to a site location person this morning who said that much of the real estate in New York is as a result of EB-5 investments. The closest EB-5 clearinghouse here is in Dallas. There's been attempts over the last 5 years to start one here. I know 2 Tulsa developers though that have been to China in the last 6 months, connecting with EB-5 investments. So I think diversifying investment in Tulsa generally. I love our Tulsa developers, and I am happy that they are willing to risk their money here. But I think it is always better to have a diverse investment economy, whether it is foreign or domestic. And part of that is selling our city. What I found when I was Secretary of Commerce, what I find today, when I was in Chicago a couple of weeks ago, meeting with people in Chicago who had, it's a direct flight, for heaven's sakes, who had never been to Tulsa. And when I asked them what their impression was of Tulsa, they said they had no impression. They didn't know. So part of it is marketing our city. And I always tell groups that I speak to, I could travel 365 days a year and the mayor could selling this city. But they expect me to say that. They don't expect you to say it. you have colleagues all over the world, all over the country, friends and relatives. Sell this city. Let them know the positive things that are going on. And I'll be frank. I mean, we know it's not perfect, right? I mean, we in Tulsa have issues that we've got to address, and I think we're so much closer to doing that today. In the state of Oklahoma, if you read The Economist recently, there was a great article about Tulsa. It was not so complimentary about the state of Oklahoma, but it was a great article about how we're managing to distinguish ourselves in Tulsa. So it's not a direct answer to your question. So the direct answer is we do that through the foreign companies that currently have investments in the U.S., in Oklahoma and Tulsa. And I think that's important because today America is suggesting, America's foreign policy is suggesting that companies are going to be treated better if they are manufacturing their products in the U.S. than abroad. And we're seeing some of our companies that were going to invest overseas really turning inward. So it's a great, I think, strategy that we need to focus on more as we recruit companies and investments in. It's a great point. I mean, I'm really happy to hear about the housing, happy to hear about the foreign investment, the incubators, really how we might boomerang these students that were amazing students that we're training that know that Tulsa's a great place and bring them back. Mm-hmm. What else can we do? Yes?
Is Tulsa even considering incentivizing or the variety of things they can do in the entertainment industry, whether it be movies, movies are filmed elsewhere right now, or incubating movie makers. We've got a lot of local talent that ends up going to LA.
Right. So Abby Curran, who used to run the state film office, right? There is still there is a quality event act incentive from the state that Tulsa does a great job of taking advantage of through Visit Tulsa. I think we processed 20 applications in this first quarter of the year. So there is an incentive. I don't know how well known it is. I think Abby Curran, who runs used to run at the city, now at the chamber, used to be at the state actually, runs the Tulsa Film and Music Office, has done a great job of getting a good showing of Tulsa at South by Southwest. But I think there's a lot of work to be done, especially with the assets that we already have in place right here in Tulsa. I agree. But Abby, I think Abby doesn't have a lot of resources, but I can tell you that she has leveraged every bit that she has, and she'd be a good person to contact with any ideas or connections that you have, because I've never given her anything that she hasn't followed up on aggressively.
She does a great job with South Park.
Yeah, she does. She does. But there's more to be done. It's a part of our history that we need to capitalize on. And I think, with the Woody Guthrie and the Bob Dylan archives, and hopefully soon with the OK Pops Museum, the Canes, and we've got enough density that this should be a destination.
Okay.
Yes.
Just one thing for the tech crowd, directly to the how to attract and acquire. There's actually kind of a little blowback going against Silicon Valley right now. So it's still kind of the place you can go to work on the hardest tech problems in the world. But there's this understanding that it's become the sort of Disney World of frat boys and, just not great.
I read the article.
Stuff getting made. So one of the things that sort of excites when I'm talking to other Mozilla colleagues that are either based in the Valley or based in Portland or based in Austin is to know that something like 36 North actually exists here, but that you can have sort of that tech community, because most techies don't need a lot of assets. We need like a $500 laptop and good Wi-Fi and coffee, which this place has great coffee though, right?
Yeah. And good coffee cups.
Yeah. So they don't need much. They need that, and they need other techies. So they see that this place has other techies, but it's not the bubble like the Valley is. And I think that in the next 5 years or so, there's actually going to be kind of a flight from the Valley, because people are kind of sick of it being itself so much, right?
So, do we do almost a recruitment event here, like during Tulsa Tough or during some awesome event, and we invite, I mean, we get American Airlines to help donate us some tickets, and we invite 20 or 30 people here and say, spread the word.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that, but also just continuing to cultivate stuff like like this place, and then the communities that are inviting those kinds of people that are after more than just let's move to the valley and try to make $1 bazillion, right? We want to work on
And spend $1 billion on housing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea. 2 bazillion. Yeah, 2 billion. You have a question?
Hi, morning. I have two things. One, a couple of years ago, I was involved with the chamber on a program called BREE, or Business Retention and Expansion. And didn't know what your thoughts were about maybe bringing something like that back with the failure rate of small business and et cetera. I know people like myself would be glad to be involved.
Yeah. So I will say this, I did check on the failure rate of small business in Tulsa and Oklahoma, and it has decreased over the last 3 years.
Yay.
It's over, it's, we're more than 50.7% of our businesses are surviving 5 years, which is that's a big deal for small business, right? And the chamber, I think I have worked with Kathy Duck, who runs the small business program, and Andrew Ralston, who runs a business retention and expansion program, and I think they have a lot of, they are doing a lot of great work, but I don't think we're getting the word out as broadly as we should. I mean, last week was Small Business Week, and I know, and I felt like, that's what I felt like.
What was that? Sorry.
Hardly anyone heard about it.
No
right.
one knew about it.
And I feel like we need to have another approach as to this kind of how we get the input of what small businesses need, because maybe what we did was not really, helpful, right? Maybe this, I mean, it's a whole different thing when you're helping a company of 500 retain employees. It's about, getting them training dollars and facilities expansion. It's very different, as you know, when we're talking about small business and entrepreneurs. And that's why, and it really, at the mayor's direction, he was asking me for data and articles right before I left on the impact of small business. But we really have to change the way we're looking at our economy, right? I mean, I would never want to lose American Airlines. It's 5,200 amazing jobs that pay really well, right? But I want to be prepared for the wave that we're in. And so I think the business retention and expansion work, that we need to have a discussion about how that works for 2 to 5 employees as opposed to 100 to 500.
The way I looked at that was more of a neighbor helping neighbor.
Yeah.
I was involved just from a volunteer standpoint, and so I think that that might be an opportunity, particularly with the idea how strong we are
right.
with volunteerism here in the Tulsa
right.
area. I think there's a lot of great business minds and great business leaders that would plug in and help a small business or help someone through a difficult time because they have that expertise, if there was some type of opportunity.
So how would you, SCORE, I was going to say there is SCORE, yeah.
SCORE has been, I'm opening up a new business, and it was far-fetched until I got hooked up with SCORE. And I think it's a matter
For those of people who don't know what SCORE is, do you mind just mentioning?
Sure. So SCORE is a nonprofit organization that has actually hooked you up with CEOs and people who are basically in the mentorship status of different communities, different types of businesses, and then they're offered to you for free. They also have lots of different classes that they offer. Usually they're over in the Hardesty. They do a lot of them over here in 36 degrees. I think it's a matter of just getting connected. I had to do a serious search to find
right.
them. I did not know about them. I had to sit down in front of my computer with lots of different search and Google terms for like 2 hours to find what I needed. So I think that the connection is the connection breakdown. How do we know what's available to us?
Right.
I'm at the end of my funding. I need like $3,000 more. SCORE is giving me the connections that I needed to reach those vendors who don't necessarily look directly at like credit score, more like what the idea is.
Well, maybe, I think it's a great point.
Maybe the idea is some type of quote-unquote evangelistic type group that would be willing to go out to businesses like yourself and say, hey, what's going on? What do you need help on? And then connecting them with the resources rather than trying to have an event and attract everybody to that.
Yeah, and then waiting a month to get
Yeah.
to that event whenever you
Right.
need it now.
How about Match.com for businesses? I don't know. I've never been on it. I'm just saying. No, I think that's a great. It's something. My dream, and I want to welcome Brandon Oldham, Mayor's office. Brandon, thanks for being here.
Hey, Brandon.
Brandon and we're in eye contact every single day. We're right across the hall from each other. So we get inspired about small business and entrepreneurs and the impact it can make in our community. But one of the dreams I have is, the city, as I began this, I told you, we have not been high tech. I mean, I can tell you that when I first started asking for financial reports when I was mayor, I asked them why it took so long, and they said because they had to string Excel spreadsheets together to give me data. That'll change, but not until the spring. And so my dream, when I look at the city website, it's by department. Now, would you know that the Small Business Enterprise Program exists in the Human Rights Department? You would have no idea, right? I said this needs to be user interface. This needs to be we need to be looking at our customers, not how nobody cares what department I'm in. They just want to know how they get help, right? So my dream is that we transform someday that website, and sadly San Francisco's is the best there is, I think. LA and San Francisco, the best I've found, to be client focused, just like a business would be, right? You need to know if you want to remodel your house, you don't want to know that you have to go to stormwater and engineering services and development services and incog and permitting. You just want to know how you remodel your house, right? I need to be able to tell you that from the city website. So long term, that's my dream. We'll see. You can hold me accountable, see if we're able to achieve that. Anybody wants to help, let me know. Yeah.
So I have a question on communication. So you got a lot of programs out there that people either don't know about, some stuff that you're developing, this kind of push to a new, more open
Right.
system. What is your method for communicating this to the public? Because I normally know Small Business Week happens, but this is probably the first year I didn't know that it happened. I missed it from all my social media, everything else. How is the city going to kind of help promote Small Business Week as well as their other programs to the community?
I think that's exactly the issue. I mean, I think we still live in a little bit of a press release world. I don't know, how many of you read press releases? No, yeah.
I see them out, but I don't read them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think we still a little bit live in a press release world, and our communications department doesn't have a lot of resources, but that's again, the nice thing about having a mayor who is 39 years old is that he does look at things with a completely different set of eyes. He communicates differently, and he's only been in office 5 months, but I'm already seeing just a change in the culture at the city of people thinking about things differently. But we have, I'll be honest with you, we have a long way to go. Again, you can go to our website. I think it's incredibly professionally done, but it is not client focused. It tells you, it gives you my org chart if you can even find me. But you don't really care about my org chart. You care what your tax dollars are going to do for you, and that's a goal that we are really working on, because we know that if we want to increase population, we want to increase per capita income, you've got to believe in what the city offers to you to be willing to pay taxes to support what's happening here.
So you can't retire anytime soon, Kathy.
Okay. Yes.
So you can sign up for the 36 Degrees North newsletter.
Yes, it's awesome.
And read the Tulsa State of Entrepreneurship report.
Thank you, Jack.
And seriously, go to Feedback Tulsa. It's a new tool. We're not using it to its full extent yet, but we're beginning to, and we do review those in our meetings of what we're hearing from people as we begin planning our budgets. The mayor just presented his budget. We budget year by year in government. We just produced though he produced a 2-year budget, but we'll begin the next cycle, and it's all about financial priorities and how we use those public dollars. Yes.
I think that kind of the overarching.
Speak up so people in the back can hear you.
You're good.
You're good. You're good.
Right.
I think the overarching issue, as far as I'm hearing throughout this entire thing, kind of underlines communications. I feel like if Tulsa proper, the city gave
Right.
us a cool website that we can tell people about social ready images
Yep.
of how we can promote living in Tulsa.
okay.
I mean, people still think I ride around on a donkey.
Right.
Here.
Not a horse, a donkey?
A
Okay,
donkey.
all right. I hope people always ask me if I ride a horse. So.
Well, same difference as
Yeah.
far as like their viewpoints.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that just spending a few more dollars in the communication, and you mentioned how Mayor Bynum is already, you know, giving a new insight into where we're headed. But I think business owners know that social media is where it's at.
Right.
And Tulsa's not there.
Right, we're not.
Supposed to be this cutting edge place, and we are.
Right.
But it's not getting out.
Right.
You know, and so I think that if you guys were able to, or there was able to be a task force, or maybe the fellows could help with this. How are other cities, like, just for example, my church gives us excellent looking, like social media ready, shareable images
Right.
and videos and cool hip things to share that get people in.
And we have a lot of that. So I know. Okay. Well, I mean, I think that's it. That is really an important message to hear because, you know, we want you to know what we're doing, and we need to do it in a way that it's shareable, and that you can help us sell the city, right, to others. That's a good message.
Pamela?
Yes.
I'll add to what she said.
Okay.
I'm updating all of my websites and my software. Are there any decent pictures of Tulsa I can put on there?
Yes. There are a lot of, I saw a great skyline picture just today. There's beautiful pictures of Tulsa Tough. There's the BOK Center. There's new thing. Yes, and if you, no. Yes. I will tell you, I started January 5th, and right before I started, we were making a proposal to a company that was looking at moving their headquarters here, and they gave me the first draft back of the proposal, and I was like, what? These pictures are from the 60s. Is this intentional? And so we scoured about, and there are there are amazing photographers in Tulsa that I called upon and said, hand over your product. We need it. So no, but that's a really good point. That needs to be there for companies to promote themselves to others, like you're saying, your services to other companies. So good. That's a really good help. Brandon and I are going to tackle that tomorrow. We are, right? Won't we? You think we're kidding, but we'll do it.
There's a question right here.
Yeah.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi.
Thanks for sponsoring Cultivate918.
Oh.
It's been a great organization. I know enough of us who kind of, in the early days, appreciate your leadership on that. I'm working with a number of entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs, specifically professionals here in Oklahoma and places like Boston, where they can basically help them acquire companies and bring them to Tulsa.
Uh-huh.
So I guess the question would be, how can I best interact with the city to help identify potential entrepreneurs when they go out and own businesses? How can I help work with the city as far as convening interested executives and entrepreneurs and families, organizations that want to support that effort? And then how can I work with the city to I guess, make the transitions from the east and west coast to Tulsa as seamless as possible?
So I actually think that last part we do pretty well. I think we know how to help bring people here. We know how to help introduce them. That's something that we together with our partner at the Tulsa Chamber, really, that we fund to do that kind of work with us. That's something that we do, I think, very well. Convening entrepreneurs is not something the city has done much in the recent past. We are relaunching on May 30th the Economic Development Commission. It will have a specific committee that it used to have called Entrepreneurship and Small Business. The commission in its current form is only 11 people, and it used to be a couple dozen, but by statute it was changed to 11. So we're going to be doing committees of the Economic Development Commission to address high priority issues. Housing is one, entrepreneurship and small business is one, Local incentives is another, re-looking at how we're doing local incentives. So I would encourage anyone who is interested to let me know. I'm really easy to find, ktaylor@cityoftulsa.org, although our email was down all day today, so hopefully you didn't email me today. Email me tomorrow. And serve on one of those committees. And let's figure out how we get this going. We know, and I always believe, we can't do it all at the city, but the one thing we can do, especially with the power of the pulpit of the mayor's office, is we can convene. And as I said before, when the mayor convenes people, they come. So let's figure out what the ideas are that we need to convene and that we need to prioritize, and we'll make it happen. Yes, in Oklahoma. There you go.
And other countries, other parts of the country that have like a stronger innovation track record.
Yeah.
This very much throw that. And those other countries that conflict doesn't necessarily need to be there. I think people feel a certain sense of integration if you are in favor of solar panels. You just want to stare down to $300 state.
Right.
And I think one of the most useful things for understanding some notion of how do we diplomatically bridge this divide that doesn't really need to be there, in my mind. I mean, we have a new kind of interchange that's been spoken.
Right.
The wind speaking out of planes, the use of the local homes, there's all sorts of things at great times. What are your thoughts?
So I think it's an interesting thing. You're saying that you think people are concerned about embracing alternative energy because of the oil and gas industry. Is that kind of what you're saying? Yeah.
There's voices out there that
Right. 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 Yeah. No. I think it's I am surprised, frankly, that issue has not gotten more discussion. I think 10 years ago the discussion was a lot more vibrant, weirdly, than it is today. We are. I mean, I will say. We are getting ready to put solar panels on the library, thanks to a local solar company. And all our new parking garages and the current parking garages, we're asking them to retrofit, adding for electric cars. And we had that discussion, and there was a little pushback. People were like, but people that park in our parking garages are in the oil and gas industry. And I said, and some of them drive Teslas. So I think we're at a stage in America where we know we have finite resources and we have to address that issue. Our recent revision, frankly, of the building codes 3 years ago, I'm very surprised, did not really provide some incentives for car sharing and bikes, but not substantial incentives for green building, as much as I would have thought that we would have done. So I think I think that Sustainable Tulsa does a good job of helping with that dialogue. But again, my dream would be, for example, that Sustainable Tulsa would kind of be that voice for the city to begin integrating that into our policies. And that's why I say when the city, if you're not involved in the city, it's not going to be the city you want. And so having the voice of sustainability in city policies, whether it is requiring that everything be printed front and back, I'm going to have some things I'm not going to hand out because they maybe weren't. I'm going to recycle them. It's simple sustainability policies that your city government takes the lead on, I think, is an important issue, and it's not something we do have geothermal at Guthrie Green. Right. The city financed that, but it needs to be more integrated into everyday city policy to encourage that in building, incentivizing it, really. So I hope you'll help take the lead on that.
There's some question right here.
I can't my camera. Oh, there we go. Sherry.
You talk about the incentive in city policy, and we know that I'm a huge fan of this refrigeration, but we don't give much thought when about all these entrepreneurs and bringing these businesses in Tulsa to affordable housing. So with downtown and midtown, as you know,
Right.
so we can talk about it later. I do have a plan, but let's talk about
Okay.
implementing those policies because they are not working, and we are losing the built environment. The very bungalows that we're demolishing now are the affordable housing that some of my friends, now adult children, would like to live in.
Right.
First-time home buyers and entrepreneurs that might want to live downtown, but we can't provide that. They can't afford it.
Right.
We need to find ways in which we can offer these incentives to people that own these buildings, or more importantly, residential assets.
I agree. I agree, and part of the issue is, as you know, it's a little bit like our streets. For decades and decades, we have ignored the safety and the upkeep of our housing. We didn't go through the mortgage bubble that other communities did because, frankly, sadly, we had too high of a rental population, and they were absentee owners. We went through, that did not keep up that housing, and I'm sure you have, Sheree, read the state report on the state of housing in Tulsa County. We've got to do something, not just about obtainable and affordable, but the safety and security of houses that are currently standing. And I think Dwayne Majette and Working in Neighborhoods does a great job with the limited resources they have, but as federal resources are decreasing, it's absolutely an area we have to address. Okay, good. Well, you're on the housing committee.
Got your solution.
Just got you on the housing committee. Thank you for volunteering. Yeah.
So it would seem that because of the state budget crisis and funding for education, that might be one of the main barriers for entrepreneurs and this workforce coming to schools, especially a young workforce with children who are still in school. I read a comment by T.T. Bynum about how the state law prevents state fundraising salaries. Has there been any exploration of non-salary benefits such as subsidized housing for teachers? I feel like there are
Yes.
huge options that could still exist.
Yeah. So two things. One is the mayor and the city council passed a resolution, I think in January, making education a municipal priority, which gives us a little bit more flexibility. We still have the same finite budget resources because we're focused on sales tax. We tried to get a bill through the legislature this session. It doesn't look like it's going to make that would enable us, with the vote of the people, to move to both a sales and a property tax base for our revenue. We'll try it again next year if we don't make it this year. But in the last vision package, we did put money in for education, and we went to the school districts that are in Tulsa, TPS, Jenks, and Union, and said, tell us how to best use this money, because originally we were going to pattern it after a program that we've seen in other communities for subsidized teacher housing. And the school districts really asked that we look at doing it to help continuing education for teachers, because that budget has been completely decimated at the state level. So we do have some funding in the last vision package, so that we're now working. The mayor has an education cabinet comprised of the school district superintendents and the presidents of the universities, and they are working on programming that money in the way that they feel is best. We're the only city in Oklahoma that has done that. As we look at our tax increment financing use of those dollars as well, we are plotting where their schools are in every TIF district to make sure that we help support them from a capital standpoint as well. We know if we do not have we cannot support our education system, we're not going to attract companies with one job or 5,000 jobs. I will tell you that we were in the finals of trying to attract the Boeing 787 assembly plant about 8 years ago, and the last question they asked me two final questions. And one was, tell me what you're going to do to educate a workforce for us long term. And the second is, will your community embrace the diversity of our supplier base? They didn't ask me about money, they didn't ask me about water, and they didn't ask me about land. Those are the two questions that were important. And I think they're important to entrepreneurs and small business or large business.
Yeah. Are there any other questions? Yeah?
I would say this is kind of a really free suggestion that doesn't cost anything.
Thank you.
Like millionaires and billionaires And, just hearing them speak about business strategies and concepts, like sort of in a setting, in a leadership setting, would be helpful, I think.
Okay.
So, that's an idea.
Okay. Hey, we can do that. We can definitely do that. Oh, thank you.
I'm good, thank you.
Well, you all, yes.
Yeah, okay, so you've talked a lot about joining these committees, and you've even mentioned stuff that I'm not familiar with or never heard of. Is there a place where we can go where there's an entire list of this, and how do we join?
It's on they're on the city website. Brandon, what?
They're on the Vision Tulsa website as well.
Okay.
So yeah, and if I can't, I hope you can find it easily. I haven't searched for it recently, but if you can't, call us, and we'll help you find it. Brandon can tell you we are looking all the time for new people for the boards, authorities, and commissions, and the mayor really has a objective, as I said, to make sure that they're diverse in all ways that means.
Great.
So I don't want to stop, but I don't need to stop.
You're good.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to add, Cultivate918 has a list of all the entrepreneurship-friendly organizations. So if you're looking for anything to help with your business, if you go to cultivate.org, 918.org, there's a list of all the relevant places like 36 Degrees North, The Forge, SCORE, TBC, all the programs that are available are on Cultivate's website.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, I really appreciate the input, and I hope it doesn't stop here. I think that we're recognizing, albeit maybe late, that this economy has changed, and what worked for our mothers and fathers in recruiting businesses and landing that big fish isn't where we need to be today. I think that effort will never end. There will always be people that believe that's where some resources should go. But I can tell you from my standpoint, I've done that, and I've seen the impact of the entrepreneurial and small business community, and I've seen the data behind it, and I know that's where we need to turn our focus. But as I said before, if we just did that within City Hall and we came up with some great ideas and you never heard about them or they weren't helpful to you, then it's a waste of your tax dollars. So I hope the dialogue with you does not end here. Please know that we are very much an open door at City Hall, and the mayor's here once a month. I'm here on a pretty regular basis. Never hesitate to stop me or anybody with our team. We want to transform this city. Mayor Bynum says we want to make this a world-class city. That the in-migration rate is so high that we worry about the traffic and the number of, and we have to add more bike shares. So help us do that.
Great. Well, Kathy, thank you so much for being here tonight. We're so lucky to have her as a champion for entrepreneurship. You guys can keep up with Cultivate918. Go to our website, cultivate918.org, and you can sign up for our newsletter, and you can follow us on social. So thank you so much for being here.
And we have kept track of these ideas, and so trust me, we will execute on these. A lot of the ideas that you gave us tonight aren't things that are going to cost any money. They're just some time.
Great.
So we'll do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to gracefully get off here.
Dismount.